Jamal Khashoggi is murdered. And listen, at the time, I, of course, was against the murder of a journalist in Saudi Arabia, Jamal Khashoggi. But since the Riyadh Comedy Festival, I have realized I was wrong about that. And if they continue to do a Riyadh Comedy Festival, I'm just saying, I don't know what Jamal Khashoggi did. You know what I mean? Sometimes you cross a line with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And things happen. And I'm just saying, you know, how do you feel about that, the Saudi Arabia Comedy Festival?
I have family who have been to, I don't think Saudi Arabia. I can't remember the difference between Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi, but I have family who go to Abu Dhabi like consistently.
Okay.
So I didn't think it was that weird. I was just like, I know, I get it, but
well, again,
whatever.
You're from Ghana. You guys sold slaves. Yeah. So I could understand how you would feel cozy over there.
Yeah.
So I had to go through a bit of a moral conflict with this, because this kind of runs up against like how I actually feel about things in a few ways. And I'll say I have been influenced by the backlash a little bit, and I have to try to not be, because the backlash is annoying and over the top, and it is just like a bunch of people who weren't invited trying to fucking throw hissy fits. But I have a philosophy that the point of comedy, the point of being a comedian, truly a comedian, the clown, the jester, the one who can make fun of the king, the cliche version of what we do, is being invited to something you have no business being invited to, and then ridiculing it to its face, right? So let me give you a couple examples that I particularly love that were influential on me. There is a Louis C.K. There's an O&A clip with Louis C.K. as the third chair, and they get a phone call from Donald Rumsfeld. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
The Rumsfeld lizard clip is unbelievable because Louis C.K. saw the opportunity of a lifetime. How often am I going to be on the phone live with Donald Rumsfeld? So take the shot. Do the lizard thing. You know, like life has presented you this awesome opportunity. Take it. That's our job as comedians. It's not... Louis could have went, I don't want to be on the phone with Donald Rumsfeld, and we would have lost that, you know? Tim Dillon at the Bitcoin conference during COVID in Miami. The Bitcoin conference invites Tim Dillon to do his podcast live. He has on the Winklevi twins and Jake Paul. And he just... One, it's a fascinating watch because you do see where there's a threshold of wealth, particularly if your wealth is speculative, right? Speculative billionaires had to be way more cautious than the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, let's say, right? Who just happen to be sitting on an actual physical, natural resource that we will need. They don't really have to be careful about what they say about things. They might take care of a journalist every once in a while, you know? But the Winklevi twins can't go around killing journalists just yet because it might tank Bitcoin.
Right.
And all of their money is tied into Bitcoin. So if they say or do something that hurts Bitcoin, they hurt their own wealth. There's a saying I love. I don't know where it came from, quite honestly. I'll tell you where I saw it. It was in the Heidelberg Project in Detroit, which is a 2-block art installation in the east side of Detroit. I really love it. It's very cool. The idea, this guy Tyrese did it, and the idea behind it was with all these abandoned buildings in Detroit, and by the way, I love a tangent, but all these abandoned buildings in Detroit, if you brought attention to them, crime won't happen as much. So he had an after-school program, and he just took random scraps and bullshit and whatever and made art out of all these houses. And there was a house across the street from the main house that had a quote on the side of it. And that quote was, the things you try to control you. And that's what's happened to people like the Winklevi twins or whatever, right? Is that they want to control Bitcoin so much they're actually controlled by Bitcoin.
Right.
Bitcoin owns them, right? I found that very fascinating. Whereas Jake Paul, he just got to do and say, yeah, he has money invested in Bitcoin, but he does other shit, so he didn't really care that much. But what Tim did at the end ultimately was make fun of the Bitcoin conference to its face. That is the job of comedy, is to go and be invited. That's the whole correspondence dinner, is what that's horseshit is supposed to be. It's supposed to be comedians showing up and going, hey, president, I'm holding you to account. And then it just became, Hassan Minaj doing whatever.
Sucking dick.
Sure. All right. That was a blunt object, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Not a fan. I take that back.
No,
Hassan, if
I
you're
don't
booking.
care. No,
you know,
I don't. Yeah.
I'm half brown.
You know what annoyed me? The only thing I've ever had against Hassan Minaj is, if you want to know a little dirty baseball about the industry, a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, whatever, the owner, the CEO, the whatever of Just for Laughs was Me Too'd. And when they had to sell, there's an American agency, ICM, that bought Just for Laughs. So wouldn't you know it, who's the comedian of the year? The first year ICM owns Just for Laughs.
Oh.
Hassan Minaj, one of their clients. Wouldn't you know it?
Right.
And he's there's no shade to Hassan Minaj, but
No. But they had their foot on the scale for that one. Yeah.
comedian of the year, Hassan Minaj. Does that flow off the tongue to anybody correctly? Anywho, do we go back to the list? What the fuck was I talking about? People are going to be, these tangents are going to get so far. Anyways, Jamal Khashoggi. My point is, the Riyadh Comedy Festival. My stance generally is you're supposed to be invited to a place and then ridicule to its face. So, initially, my response to it was, no, go. Yeah, get the money, first of all, whatever. But also, go ridicule the thing to its face. And then I was with that for a while, and then I saw the response of everybody fucking shitting on all the comics and whatever. And by the way, another example where Tim Dillon is the example. You did the right thing again, Tim. He goes, he talks a bunch of shit about it on his podcast, because if you look at the contracts say you can't talk shit about the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You can't you can't talk about shit about the religion. I think you can't even talk shit about Islam, which probably wouldn't kill anyways. To be completely honest with you, it might get you killed, but it would not kill. But I think so. Then I was like, okay, so you can't actually talk shit. That kind of takes away the whatever. And then I sat with that for a little bit longer, right? One thing I'll say is, what does the CBC tell you can't say? The CBC tells you, do you think the CBC is going to let you go talk about the kingdom of Saudi Arabia even? Right. You know what I mean? You can't talk about the kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the CBC. You think they're going to let you go on that and shit on them? We're freer? You think that when someone invites you politely to a thing, you think that anyways. What you do is very simple. Yes, I can't talk about the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What I can talk about is pineapples and how I don't like that pineapples sometimes get caught in a journalist's throat and that journalist chokes on a pineapple and dies. That's what I could talk about. Yeah. I could talk about how I like to go get my own pineapples myself from the store. I don't need Guyanese slaves getting me my pineapples. I don't myself have a slave from a third world country getting me pineapples.
Right.
I go to the store and get pineapples myself. That's something you could talk about.
Sure.
And so if you're just clever, you can talk about all of it. Just don't be lazy. Now, if anyone goes and licks ass, yeah, hold them to account. I'll tell you one example, and I don't care if this gets him upset, and it will, because he's a bit of a baby about shit a lot of the times. But Tony Hinchcliffe did the absolute wrong thing at that Republican convention. He went and pandered to the people in the room. That's why it was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fault him for going to the Republican convention, but that's not the opportunity to dunk on the libs. You don't dunk on the libs when they're not there. You dunk on them to their face. That's brave. You go and dunk on... There must be something you disagreed with in that room. There must have been something you could have pointed out in that room. There could have been an angle. You could have taken the fucking thing and flipped it on them. Like, give them what they want for a minute and then turn it on them for the last little while. You could have escaped all of the trouble you got for that. And I know you don't care ultimately, and that's fine. You're doing great. Gives a shit. And, this might even oddly get to you, and I know you. So whatever with it. But just hold them to some level of feet on the fire, the same way Mark Maron should have, and the same way he's telling these podcasters they should have done with Trump. Don't just show up and fucking lick the ass of the people that are there. It's silly.